I learned lots of stuff.
This
today.
is real, by the way. This is real.
I have yet to ever be speechless before in my life, so that was great. For me, I think there's a couple things that we should all be walking out of here with, and one of them is really taking the next steps and becoming better ambassadors within our own organizations, going back, partnering with your hiring managers in a different way, learning your business a little bit better, reading and learning. It was mentioned earlier today to read books on sales. I'm a huge believer in reading books on marketing. Once you have that relationship building, I really say take that next step and start reading things on marketing and really understanding how companies market. And really, I guess it then turns into selling their product. But because if you know how to market yourself, you can just do the exact same things internally and become an influencer. The second piece that I'm going to say after this morning's session is technology. We still are complaining a lot about technology, and yet we aren't using our technology that we already have properly. You have it, it's sitting there, turn it on. It's not going to cost you any more than what you're already paying for it. For small companies that are out there, I saw a number of tweets go through this morning of people talking about, well, we can't afford this and we can't afford that. There's products out there in every single budget that will do what you need them to do. So don't make cost an excuse, and don't make your inability to optimize your product correctly an excuse for doing your job poorly. That's all. And have a good night.
And you've also said many times, though, that tools are not a strategy.
Tools are not a strategy.
So let's make sure we clean that up, because you don't want to give people the message that use technology and your worries go away.
No. Tools are tools. That's why we call them tools. They're something to help you with your strategy. They are not your strategy. And so implementing them in your organization and working with them properly will help you be able to do your job more effectively and help your candidates be able to experience your organization more effectively while being able to manage your ROI and your metrics and being able to report. So when you do go and have those conversations with your hiring managers and with your leadership teams, you're able to walk in with quantitative data, not with things like I think or I'm pretty sure, but you're able to throw down numbers and say this is exactly where it's at, and it builds credibility for you within an organization.
Awesome. Mr. Raymer.
Well, first, I want to say I've had a wicked great time here today. I hope everybody else did also. No Yankee hat.
Wicked awesome.
All right, wicked awesome. Gosh, there's so much I took away from today. First of all, who's the real outsider here? Okay, should this be called RecruitFest or HR Fest?
Oh.
Anyway, no, I absolutely loved the interaction. This has been a different format that I am used to. I think there's so much brain power and information that was shared here. So many things that I will be taken away in regard to corporate and how they look at and how they process. And I think that we're all in the same boat together. This is a group. We are on the leading edge. Something special is happening here. We are at an inflection point in history, in my view. The year 2010. The revolution of technology, the revolution of how we're working together, the mishmash of all this brain power coming together is showing us that we're in this together, and the future is uncertainty, but we are going to figure it out together. And I think it's such an exciting time to be part of the conversation and to figure it out together. So thank you all. I really enjoyed it. I've met all of you. I've known you online, but I've met you in IRL today, so great time. Thank you very much.
And I think we're going to call it Talent Fest. Does that work for you? That way we don't have to determine who gets what. People Fest. Recruit Fest works for me. Mr. Judy.
All right, so I think first of all, I learned that this is probably the closest I'll ever get to being on Oprah, and I'm okay with that.
Would you like to stand on the couch and jump up and down while you're here?
But I'm okay. No.
No cars for the studio audience. Sorry.
So I used to leave these things with a lot of kind of pent-up frustration. It wasn't pent up for long because I'd usually find a way to share it. But those frustrations were usually founded in, we just spent 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever, talking about all this big theoretical stuff that sounds really cool. And boy, wouldn't it be great? And I couldn't find a way to translate that into what I'm going to do the next day, or what my organization's going to do, or how do I turn that into something practical. Now, Joe called us out on practical today, and I'm glad that he did, because I think I'm now thinking about this a little bit differently. The reason, and we did spend a lot of time today talking theoretically, talking about big picture stuff, and the reason we do that is because we can only give direction. You guys have to figure out how to apply that direction, how to make it work in your organizations, how to make it practical. But it has to be practical for you. And so you can't come into this room expecting a silver bullet and all sorts of answers that you can just go home and deploy tomorrow. Your challenge is to actually do something with this stuff. You know, that's the hard part. How long will you think about the things that you learned today, and will you be able to operationalize it? The other thing that I really liked about this venue, and I said it in a blog post that I did earlier, that 800 thought leaders are much better than one thought leader, and that's what we had today. We had 2,000 thought leaders at least, streaming and tweeting and everything in between, and there's so much. This conversation has tentacles. It starts to grow, and it leads to different places. And social media allows us to do that, but it's only one way we can do that. So how do we continue the conversation? How do we make sure that we're tapping into those 2,000 thought leaders and not just the 12 that we're sitting up here today? I don't know if that's not necessarily a direction for what you can or should do tomorrow, but I think it's something that we all have to think about. And I was glad to be here. Thanks.
Glad to have you. And I was getting the nod from the guys who are controlling the stream here that want you to know we had 2,000 at any given time. So there was 2,000 this morning. So just know there were probably, we'll have the numbers later to share with everybody, but thousands of people. 280 million people.
280.
Hash fact from Jason Davis, right? Slouch, at Slouch on that one, right? That's the next RecruitFest, see? Excellent perspective on that. And, I always look to, there's a few people that I look to their thoughts after I leave a conference to figure out if you had the same frustrations or thoughts that I did. And yours is always the one, because I know you'd always say what was in your head that others of us were thinking. So I'll take a look at that post to figure out where you were. Where you were on it, because he's pretty transparent with this. You own your thoughts to keep the dialogue going, and I think that's what's awesome. So thank you. It's getting harder now, don't you think, to not repeat? So who gets the easier one? I don't know. I know Susan, out of just because I love you so much. See.
Well, I think the first thing is that we broadcast that China Gorman is like looking for a job. So any organization that's looking for an awesome leader in the C-suite that didn't hear that heard it again. And if you don't get 10 calls tomorrow, I'll be really surprised. Or today.
I can get you on the resume database too, if you like. It's going to be quickly searchable. Because that
insurance-
stuff works.
but-
just saying,
yeah.
right? I mean, it just works.
It's really interesting just to sort of see the mix of topics that have come together here, and the insight and the learnings. And, I think this is really representative of how challenging the talent function has become. And I know Joe was being sort of a little direct, a little sarcastic when he said before, if you don't love people, you probably shouldn't be here. I think it's really a combination of you got to love people, you've got to be curious, you've got to be comfortable with technology, and you've got to be courageous. And I think there is never a better time for the talent function to step up and help advance the organization's mission. We are in a transformative stage here. We are I mean, life is just not the same. It's not the same as it was 2 years ago. It's not going to be the same 2 years from now. And everything revolves around talent, and that is the game changer. And it's more competitive than it's ever been because of the global aspect of it and because of the choice that's out there. And so if organizations of any size are going to win, there has to be this insane, passionate commitment to how we bring people and business together and get all the BS sort of obstacle stuff out of the way to make that happen. And it can't come back to the C word. You know, that can't be an excuse because no one buys it anymore. Because if you don't let them do it, they're going to go find somebody who can. And it's never been easier for people to create and contribute and to share and do things that excite them. So I'll leave you with this. Why do people create things for free? How many apps can you download out of the App Store for free? Somebody is putting their time into doing that. And you think about how organizations struggle every single day to get people to get work done. And the reason, I think, is around meaning, that people have the opportunity to actually find meaning in their work. And so as we can help have people find meaning in their work and help them connect with our brands, okay, that can be very transformative. And China, by the way, as a C-level individual, could help get that done in anyone's organization.
We now need a hashtag like pimping China, right? I mean, like this has gone completely. Charney is like done.
We don't need that. We want to start a hashtag that says pimping China.
I think it's done. I think it's now it's in the past. We need to move on, right?
My brand is all about.